Here comes another one. A fanfiction by Brian Harrison, using environments and character concepts established in the film Artificial Intelligence by Steven Spielberg and Stanley Kubrick. Here comes another one, just like the other ones. Too many, too fast, wide eyes taking in the room. Has it never seen these flat white walls before? Damn, not tonight, Raymond said. He slipped from his desk and into his lab coat. He plastered on the obligatory smile and stood at the counter. On the other side of the reinforced alumiglass partition, a woman with a tight grin and a tighter black gown escorted a small boy into the room. But it wasn't really a boy. She parked the thing at the door to the lobby, and it sat, obedient as these things always were. She came to the window then, feigning some casualness that was belied by the nervous hands on her purse strap and her inability to look at him directly. Raymond pressed on the release handle, and the partition opened. "How you doing tonight?" he asked. "What can I do for you?" He already knew. Damn. "Oh," Tight Grin said, as if he'd taken her by surprise. Well, I was told that." She paused then, and started again. "Well, I know this is not the best timing, but my mother just passed away, and—" They always stuttered and hemmed and hawed. "And we'll be moving to New Utah since my husband's going to be starting a new job out there. We'd stay here, but—" "I understand," Raymond cut her off. He couldn't listen to the rambling anymore. It was always the same. "This was your mother's?" he asked, nodding at the quiet little figure that watched him expectantly from across the room. The woman looked down without responding. Raymond waited a moment, but a reply didn't seem forthcoming. Must be the typical guilt. "Been giving you a hard time, eh?" he asked with a false understanding. Maybe the memory was too fresh. Not her fault, really. The things often got out of hand when the imprinter passed. She nodded her head and tried to laugh, but the smile just got a little tighter. We just want to make this as smooth as possible. The Sim, has been a wonderful companion, but now, well—" She trailed off. Raymond nodded his head. "Did your mother imprint on it while you were a child, or—" He didn't finish the question, though. Something wasn't quite right about this situation. "Well, we were always close," she said, and paused. Raymond smiled, listening. His eyes said, "And?" "And, well, now it's time to move on, you know?" It was suddenly clear to Raymond that the Sim wasn't her mother's. Was it hers? Her husband's? He would have had more respect for her decision if she had not tried to hide behind her parents' death. He was cool, though. He wasn't here to judge. He had a job to do, and that was that. He nodded, pressed his hands into his nondescript white lab jacket, and let her see a sympathetic smile. "I've just recently acquired a parenting license," she said, as if it was the subject of some other conversation, unrelated to her being here. Raymond let his eyes widen for a second, a non-committal congratulation. She misunderstood it. My husband Charles and I, decided that the islands aren't really for us. You know, he's got a position with a submerged salvage company out there, and—" "I'm Raymond Angular," he interrupted. "What can I call you?" "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Sharon Wycamp," she replied, not sure whether to offer her hand. In the end, she did not. Raymond thrust his chin in the direction of the mecha sitting across the room. Its desperate little eyes were curious upon them. "And?" he asked. "Oh, well, we call it Philip," Sharon whispered and glanced away. Raymond grunted. His phony smile was getting hard to keep up. "Well, Miss Wycamp, I assume that Philip's intention of expiration has been registered and his paperwork completed?" She reached nervously into her purse and extracted the requested data. Raymond took the wrinkled forms, humming as he pretended to inspect them. We reported his expiration this morning," Sharon added, apparently anxious to get the whole thing over with. "Well, that's interesting," Raymond replied, abandoning his non-judgmental smile. "But it hasn't been expired yet," he finished, pointing out the obvious. Sharon countered by looking away quickly. There was an uncomfortable silence, after which she turned to face him. Her face was red and breath quick. Was it anger? Guilt? "I can have my own child now," she hissed. Her eyes were hard on Raymond. Across the room, Philip stared intently at their confrontation. Raymond knew the thing was processing what was going on. He knew that it would recognize Sharon's discomfort and wonder at the situation. "Look, I'm only suggesting that you could have compromised any claim you might have made by reporting an inaccurate—" "I don't care about any claim," the woman almost yelled. "I don't want any money, and I don't need your goddamn attitude either. I can have my own child now." Raymond held up his hands in surrender. Now the sim knew for sure that things weren't right. Damn and damn again. "Let's relax, okay?" he offered. He noticed the little fake boy rising from its chair. Even from this distance, Raymond could see its tweaked eyebrows and its expression of painful confusion. At any moment it might start a whine. "Listen, if you cared about him once, then let's not agitate his concerns now," Raymond whispered. "When you're gone, I still have to keep him calm until the shutdown." He knew that he should not refer to the sim in human terms. It was standard procedure to make the process easier on customers. But he had no sympathy for this woman now. "It's your problem now," Sharon said with too much ease. "I've done my part." No, you haven't," Raymond said. She glared at him impatiently. "What?" "I need you to call him over here for me, and I need you to act like you're going to just step out for a few minutes. Can you do that?" The woman looked ready to bolt from the room, but after a moment she softened and took a deep breath. "Philip, come here," she said flatly. The sim obeyed immediately, dashing across the room with a childish enthusiasm that never failed to break Raymond's heart. It rushed to Sharon's side and stared up at the woman with a satisfied look that made her glance away. So there was still something like emotions in there somewhere, eh? "This man is Raymond, Philip, and—" Sharon glanced at Raymond, uncertain how to continue. Raymond stepped forward. "And I'm going to take a look at you while your mommy goes out for—" "He doesn't call me that," Sharon interrupted quickly. Then she stepped back, looking away. "Just stay here with this man, Philip. Do whatever he tells you, and—" She glared at Raymond one last time. "And I'll be back shortly." With that last merciful lie, Sharon Wycamp, newly licensed mother, strutted quickly out of the room, discarding her confused robot child to a stranger. The robot watched the door as its mother disappeared from its life. Its face was twisted in uncertainty. Damn it, Raymond thought. He was glad the thing was so calm, though. He was here alone tonight. Nobody had expected there to be any discards at this time of the year, especially not this night. This night when people should be cuddling with their children, real or otherwise. Machines like Philip had been created just for nights like these. "Philip?" Raymond beckoned. The robot ignored the summons at first. It stood unmoving, staring at the fogged glass door. Raymond tried again. "Philip, she'll be back." The machine turned to face him then, and its pained expression said it knew that Raymond lied. "Philip, you know about Santa Claus, don't you?" Raymond asked. The sim stared at him, unspeaking. Its black eyes burnt on Raymond, its black brows tweaked against the light flesh of its face, pronouncing an expression that was all too real. Moisture gathered in simulated tear ducts, and its lips pressed tightly together, as if to keep something from escaping. A moan, a scream. "Well, Santa Claus is a man who flies around the world in a magical sleigh," Raymond continued. "And he brings gifts to all the children who have—" He stopped when Philip turned again to stare at the door. Raymond walked around it and knelt between Philip and the point of its desperate gaze. "Philip," he said, "he goes to all the children who have been good, and he brings them a special gift." The sim tried to move around Raymond, but he took its shoulder. "A special gift that will last them a lifetime, Philip. Isn't that a wonderful thing?" The robot child glanced perplexed at Raymond. He knew its mind was struggling to understand the relevance of this story, but it quickly cued the analysis and tried to peek around him again. "Have you been a good boy this year?" Raymond asked, blocking Philip's view of the door. "I know of Santa Claus," Philip finally replied. "When is Sharon going to return?" "Answer my question, Philip," Raymond commanded. He had to establish control. "Have you been a good boy this year?" Philip pondered the question a moment, then nodded slowly, its eyes still gazing over Raymond's shoulder, to the exit where its reason for being had just departed forever. Finally it fixed anguished black eyes on Raymond's. This year I did the dishes every day at 21 o'clock, except when Charles and Sharon went out and there were no dishes. Then I would wait in the living room until they came home, and I would put their coats and clothes away when they went to bed. On Saturdays at 7 o'clock I'd clean the cruisers, and at 10 o'clock I replaced... Philip continued, reciting a litany of petty chores that had been expected of it. It spoke quickly, precisely, its light voice anxious, eyes darting occasionally towards the XA. Raymond feigned a jovial laugh, interrupting Philip's recitation of its chores. "Wow, that's a lot of stuff," he said. "Why hadn't they just got a damn butler?" "You've been very, very good, Philip," Raymond said. He stood then and put his arm around the fake boy's shoulders, knowing that these bots had been designed to respond to such familiarities. "Santa's going to be really impressed," he said. "Why don't we go talk to him?" Raymond quickly took the Sim's smooth little hand and began walking, praying the thing didn't go into alert mode. But Philip only glanced over its shoulder a few times as it was led past the partition into the blank white room beyond. Because fiber does not constitute that which makes you feel. Once a mecha is registered as expired, it does not exist. But consistent with the contradictions of their virtual world, Philip Wycamp, a little imitation boy who legally did not exist anymore, sat staring as Raymond played with a complex array of neural connectors. The Sim's gaze was intense upon him, its eyes missing nothing. As he worked, Raymond talked casually about Santa Claus and the elves, and the reindeer the fat man used to fly through the skies. The story managed to keep Philip's logic processors occupied, which was its design. Occasionally the mecha would try to turn its head and peer down the hallway down which they'd come. It knew. It knew she'd left, but yet it did not go alert. That was a good sign. This one might be easier than usual. "So tell me, Philip, what do you want for your special gift?" Raymond inquired. Philip's face showed some impatient skepticism. Its tear ducts filled, but had not broke upon its face. "Santa's going to want to know, Philip," Raymond continued. "How else is he going to get you what you want?" "I want to go home," Philip said. Raymond's heart broke a little more, but he only smiled and winked at the mecha boy as he prepared the flush. It would all be over soon enough. "Well, we'll see what Santa says about that," he replied finally. "Almost done. Just keep calm a minute more." Because everything we really are is undefined, indefinable. The connectors were finally in place, but Philip was becoming more agitated by the moment. It had not felt the cutting into the skin or the placing of the interface connectors, but it did not like being unable to see what Raymond was doing behind its head. Raymond rechecked his monitors to make sure that everything was prepared. He wanted this to be quick. "Philip," he said softly into the Sim's ear, "I want you to remember some fun things about when you first came to live with Sharon and Charles. Can you tell me about that?" He was encouraged by the little smile that crept into the corners of the bot's troubled face. "Charles took me to the ball game," Philip remembered. "The men on the field ran around the dome and threw the ball at one another. It was fun, but Charles was angry because the men he liked did not score well." The little mecha spoke more about the game, its voice becoming excited as the recollection grew more detailed. "And once we went to see the big robot show in Sim City," Philip recalled excitedly. "The robots there danced in the sky." Raymond checked the monitor while the bot spoke. Satisfied, he pressed the keyboard, initiating a sequence of data transfer. "Tell me more," he said. Quietly, Philip scanned his digital recollections. Then his face lit up. "One day, Sharon took me to a zero-G park in Virginia," he said. "They had to sign some special papers because of me, but then we went inside and floated all day. Charles didn't want to go, though. He doesn't like being up in the air." "Did you have fun?" Raymond asked. Yes, Philip said, its eyes radiant in the recollection. "It was a good day." Raymond was glad Philip wasn't looking over its shoulder anymore. The flush was ready. "Because you were undeserving of the careless pain inflicted upon you." "Philip, I want you to meet someone," Raymond said. He then triggered the program, which accessed the digital recollections of the little bot's short, neglected life. Philip's jaw dropped and its eyes stared intently at the empty space before it. Raymond knew it was seeing someone there. He shut down Philip's sensory receptors. "I'm Philip," the little bot said to the invisible man. Yes, okay." Philip happily responded to inaudible questions while Raymond removed the bot's shoes and socks. He placed them neatly in a box he'd tagged Philip Weitkamp. Philip made a sound that might have been a giggle. "Well, I washed the cruisers and the dishes, and I cleaned up for Sharon and Charles, and I put their clothes away, and," he continued, repeating his list of duties for the jolly fat man that only he could see, the laughing white-bearded man in the big red suit. Philip was explaining what a good boy he had been, but Raymond knew that Philip didn't really need to explain. They were all good children. Such perfect children. Because every creature deserves happiness, deserves to love and to be loved. Raymond lifted Philip and placed it on a table, careful not to catch the wires attached to his head on anything and break the connection with its new world. Philip was lost now, in conversation with a man that existed in a world that would always be denied to humans. A virtual world, which could not only mimic the real world, but mercifully improve on it. Gently he removed Philip's clothing and folded them neatly. He placed them into the box and sealed the lid. On the table the boy was telling Santa what he really wanted for a special gift. When Philip's clothing had been boxed, Raymond inspected its body for any unreported damage or signs of abuse, just in case the Weitkamps tried to make a claim after all. But the bot was clean. Well, at least the people weren't evil. Raymond tagged the robot's arm and looked at its face. Philip was smiling now, its eyes full of wonder. Somewhere in that inaccessible world, he was happy. It was time. Because love can be just one fleeting moment, an immortal moment, eternal. Raymond triggered the flush. Philip's vital systems began to shut down. Its perception and motion regulators went first, then the complex web of processors that had defined its personality and interactions with the world. The bot's simulated breathing stopped, and so did the slight movements that in life had made it seem real. In death, though, Philip did not seem human. His casing did not relax, but stiffened in an instant mechanical rigor mortis. An expression of childish wonder would be locked upon its face, until the body was dismantled for parts. Raymond filled out the paperwork and prepared the body for recycling. Just before he disconnected the neural array, though, he locked in place the sequence he'd initiated minutes ago. He sat at the console then, and carefully, almost tenderly, looped the entire process. Then he saved the data into a little black box no bigger than the palm of his hand. After the data was saved, Raymond removed the box from its sheath and walked to a room near the back of the lab. It was a special room, one that he and his fellow Cybertronics subcontractors had fought to have officially established. After much costly and needless legal maneuvering, the corporation had finally relented. It wasn't going to cost them anything anyway. "Here comes another one," Raymond said to no one. He set the box in his own little compartment. There were perhaps thousands of them in here. In each, a moment of joy was being relived over and over. It would continue so, as long as there was power to run this stasis. It had been a long time since Raymond felt a tear at the sight of this room, but his heart tugged for Philip Weitkamp, who had walked with such gentle bravery into the unknown. He closed the door and left the little virtual boy in whatever moment of paradise the program had located inside his brain. Because love is all you ever wanted, all you ever need. You've been listening to Here Comes Another One a short fan fiction by Brian Harrison, based in the realm of the film Artificial Intelligence. I'd like to thank my host, comeawayohumanchild.net. This is hopefully the first of many audio presentations that will be posted here. I hope you enjoyed yourself, and I hope you'll come back for more.